Hello, this is my colleague Rance Packet and I am Javi Guo. In our presentation today, firstly, we will introduce the history of accounting and the modern accountant's role. Second, we will discuss knowledge, economic, and accounting systems. Third, how scientific connection provides an objective possibility for the integration of science. The accounting system is growing more complex and dynamic over time. In earlier stages of civilization, accounting only regards the information of trade. This evolved as people try to regulate series of accounting and create an accounting framework. In the modern accountant's role, accounting has become more complex because the establishment of share markets and companies need to be evaluated by accountants and clearly define the market value of shares of organizations, which leads us to the questions.
This question is, thank you, Joy, what is the accountant and a professional role in a postmodern society? At first, I thought we'd take a bit more of a literal approach to this question assigned to us. So an accountant performs financial functions related to the collection, accuracy, recording, analysis and presentation of a business or company's financial operations. The accountant usually has a variety of administrative roles within a company's operations. And I guess to dissect the question further, we were looking at postmodern society. So postmodern being 20th century, that applies to arts, not just accounting, and encompasses everything from ideology, culture, philosophy, and so on and forth. But Joy and I think that it's relevant to cover a setting of before and after to give context to this question and where an accountant's role may head in the modern setting. So if we start with the history of accounting, which I recommended to some of our colleagues, the paper Act 311, taken by Michael Falter, and that expands not just on the history of accounting, but how accounting theory itself developed, and it goes from the really early days. So essentially, if we're looking at the need for accounting, currency itself is dated back to 5000 BC, or approximately, but accounting theory and the need for an accountant's role dates back to the 1400s, and this was developed by, most notably by Luca Pacioli, who's dubbed the father of accounting, and his need for a double entry accounting system to account for merchant trade. So this started to encompass financial performance and balance sheet, and what one owes and is owed, and inventory and the likes. But the actual accountant's role wasn't really born until the Industrial Revolution, and this was due to the expansion of private business and trade. So this would be mainly, most businesses consisted of sole traders or families. But as the Industrial Revolution was underway, there was a need for pooled resources and formation of companies amongst people. So therefore, accounting theory required some uniform methods of measurement and uniform accounting practices. There's still a lot of flaws in this. The accountant's role certainly wasn't anything of that of today, and in these times, in the 1800s, very limited guidelines and regulation. These were essentially set by no governing bodies, or certainly no international accounting standards as such, but generally at the direction of the shareholders. This often created confusion with prospective investors, as across the board, wherever they were investing, even some on an international scale, coming from afar, it was hard to pair up certain accounting practices. So the duties back then, pretty much teller's duties in a way, but included preparing profit and loss statements and balance sheets. There were some minor tax considerations, and naturally accounts prepared were paper-based and communication was by mail. Accounting practices did not really start to become uniform between companies until the formation of stock exchanges, where there was real pressure on companies and individuals who had large operations to conform to some uniform accounting standard that everyone understood, so that we could truly know the value of companies. As we look towards the mid-1900s, the tasks and roles of the accountant in a nutshell were becoming more specialised. So we had financial accounting, management accounting, audit, taxation, advisory. There were still flaws and limitations with guidelines. And because we were moving away from the industrial age into the information age with computers and intangible assets, the value of things was very tricky, and presentation of financial statements to shareholders and prospective investors certainly needed more role specialisation and development in order to be accurate. I reflected in our presentation that someone had told me quite a while ago, if there was a way to prepare something ambiguously but legally and to one's advantage, to our own advantage, it was about not breaking the law but bending it to suit. And I think that's where accounting's been abused over the years. And what else are we looking at in the 1900s? Growing large sideburns for a period there, which I'm starting to sort of show now. You could burn down your office without a trace, pending investigation of audit. Can't really do that today. Maybe you slightly get away with it. But I'll talk more on that further, because I think that's going to become very difficult in a future setting. So in our current setting, it is evident that due to the expansion of accounting theory, that complexities of accounting are also industry specific. So there are some accountants that deal in just these individual niches. That might be agricultural accounting, accounting for charities, taxation, audit. So they're not such an ad hoc role. They don't always do everything in your role as an accountant in today's setting. So my own role, which may relate to this trend that I'll talk about regarding the future of accountant's role, has actually been defined when I graduate as more a liaison's role, so less data entry, some auditing, but more consultancy and advisory. And I think that's where the heading of the accountant's role is going. There's been a huge movement to naturally computer-based accounting systems and IT systems. There's software in the cloud, so we're looking at Xero, MYOB, Wave, Reckon products, and that gives more accessibility internationally to accounts and those that it involves. Instant communication methods. Naturally, we've got video conferencing, and everything's there when we need it. There's definitely more stringent guidelines and IAS compliant, as we discussed before. And corporate social responsibility is now coming into play more often with businesses. Until fairly recently, it was almost a laughable concept, but it is an important one, particularly if we look at the cases like Pulp Fiction cases in New Zealand, paper milling and the effects on the environment, water accounting, and all of these qualitative outcomes that now need to be incorporated into financial statements to give a true reflection of how businesses operate, the lives they affect, the environment they affect, and such. So I'll now turn to Joy, who will discuss the internationalisation of accounting, a little bit about accounting information systems, and also a scientific consideration for accounting that I'll address at the end of his discussion.
Thank you. Firstly, the internationalization of accounting. In the era of knowledge economics, the word economic is more closely linked together. The capital market is on an international scale. In order to meet the requirements of economic internationalization, the accounting world has, has headed toward a united international accounting system. The internationalization of accounting trades has become increasingly apparent. Accounting internationalization is a dynamic concept. Is a country due to participate in international economic and trade and access to mm, international markets and other requirements of the national accounting practice to the international accounting practice in line with the process of national accounting process through communication coordination of a result. Second is accounting and information system. The internet has enabled enterprises to quickly and effectively achieve information exchange and information sharing internationally. This is rooted in the international on the internal network structure and the realization of the various departments within the organizations. In the era of computer and network technology, widely used information network also produced a new economic form, network economic. The emergence of network economic has changed the entire social economic production structure and labor structure, and is causing the entire social organizational structure and the profound changes in its institution arrangements. Network accounting is based on such a network environment and network economic based on the accounting information system. The contents of the online accounting report will be diversified. In order to solve the problem of information asymmetry, accounting information users of the accounting report information put forward higher requirements. The contents of the network accounting report will be diversified. Direction. The contents of the report should not only report on the various information of the current report, but also the intellectual capital information, including intellectual capital information such as enterprise intangible asset information and human capital information, social responsibility information, non-financial information, forward-looking information, fair value information, segment information, derivative financial instrument information. Thirdly, the scientific connection provides an objective possibility for the integration of science, scientific and technological progress. For the scientific integration to create a better material conditions, scientific research, economic development and management requirements. For scientific integration put forward more requirements. Scientific development of the integration trade and promote the integration of accounting science development. The integration of accounting science is a marginalization of accounting is other modern scientific zero methods and accounting zero methods combine the research and development of accounting process. Accounting disciplines and the combination of natural science. Accounting disciplines will be a kind of natural science zero method transplantation are applied to the accounting discipline zero method significant change such as computer accounting, mathematics, and so on. Accounting disciplines and social science. Accounting disciplines will be a social science zero. Methods transplanted or applied to the accounting disciplines. Accounting disciplines zero methods scientific changes such as accounting ethics, accounting law, and so on.
So I'd like to take three avenues to do with particularly the science or computer accounting science and how that will develop in the future. So that connection will then integrate accounting systems into complex technology. So that scientific connection, providing an objective possibility for the integration of science and accounting, is talked about in some predictions that were made by Rob Nixon. So about 10-15 years ago, he had an idea of what the future of the accountant's role would be. So one, that compliance would be completely commoditised. So statutory compliance is a repetitive task. So therefore, with some supercomputers and the development of AI technologies, they can process data and check data very efficiently and very quickly. So soon enough, the tax departments will install standard business reporting. The accountant will be able to bypass any need for its own data entry of things and move more towards a consultant's role in advisory. So essentially, the accountant's role will be that of critical thinking that AI systems or exponential technology cannot yet work with. So this is logic stuff. Another prediction was that cloud accounting will be installed in over 90% of small to medium businesses. In fact, we do see that now in today's age. A lot of clients move towards MYOB Live, Xero Live products, and the convenience of being able to access accounting information and systems anywhere and upload their documents for their accountants and consultants to view. So this is very handy in the sense that it requires less meeting with the accountants, reduces time billing with the accountants, and this was actually another consideration by Rob, is that time billing will essentially be done away with, and it will be set values of having a product created, financial statements and the likes, or any advice that people require. So therefore, compliance prices will plummet by 50% or more. Accountants will need to market themselves a lot more, because naturally with everything being in the cloud, including uploading bank statements, receipts, the likes, the client's file will be up in the cloud, and it will be easier for a client to choose and switch accountants without having to go and retrieve those files. So from there, I'd also like to discuss where this may head. So recently a colleague of mine went to the Singularity U Summit in Queenstown. In fact, in our presentation last Friday, we discussed that sponsorship and grants were available for those who are interested to go down to those seminars, and this was discussing the exponential growth in AI systems. I guess the reason I find this so relevant is AI systems and things that can get rid of a lot of the mundane data entry are useful in all fields, not just accounting. But it brought to mind for Joy and I that there are data collection systems that can be used to. There's a product that's been around for a long time, which is called the i2 Data Analyst Notebook. It's mainly used by law enforcement and various agencies around the world. This program essentially takes many sources of data to create profiles and correlations that the user would not be able to necessarily think of on their own. So what I mean by that is if you were looking at a criminal's bank statements, who their known associates were, cell phone calls, all those sort of data inputs, anything that you can get off the internet, it will then create patterns and correlations that you might find useful to be able to predict what's needed. So if we were to tie that into an accounting system, these inputs that we put into Xero and other programs like that, so receipts, bank statements, could, in a program like the Analyst Notebook, assist those to audit and find patterns that may otherwise be tricky. So I have come across in the past trusts and bank accounts that are found in those trusts that almost appear more like my own bank account in a way, and that there seems to be weird patterns where spending is throughout the year and not at specific points in times. So if I'm to be more specific about this, if a trust is running 3 events each year, you'd expect expenditure before each of these events or seasonal expenditure rather than just constant sort of drawing of resources throughout the year. And it has been patterns like these that have made me look into things in audit, and they've been quite time consuming, that we could actually use AI systems and exponential technology for. So from there, that's essentially what we were talking about, so the past, present and future role of the accountant's role. And we would like to address some of the questions that were raised last Friday in our presentation from the 3 other groups. So we'll refer to those now.
With the questions that were asked from the other 3 groups, we'll start with Group 1 from Sam and Kathy, who asked, what are your thoughts on mandatory reporting on things like the carbon footprint or water accounting being in the financial statements? So we've had to think about that. Unfortunately, I think it's easier said than done. It's an ideal situation if we can include qualitative information alongside the financial statements, but it faces many challenges. There's the cost of reporting and limitations of improvement on that reporting of the effects and outcomes for individual companies that are reporting in their financial statements. For instance, if we were to include mandatory reporting on our agricultural sector on water accounting, it would quickly become apparent for some companies that everything is adverse or negative, and as it makes up a large portion of GDP and exports for New Zealand, with political pressure, reporting would be an issue that may affect the green image that New Zealand likes to maintain.
So the second question is from Group 1, Helen and Josh. Their question is, how does different parents' cultures affect the accountant's professional role? In ancient accounting plays the role of recorder of information of trade. From the emergence of civilization, humans want to improve economical efficiency as high as possible. Double entry bookkeeping is a sign of the start of postmodern accounting. And the globalization makes the connection between different countries get more closely. People start to upgrade the double entry bookkeeping, but in this era, accounting is still a tool which can improve the economic efficiency. Modern combined social and economic to accounting. Accounting starts to play the role of auditing and evaluating. And the third question is from Group 3, Emily and Michelle. Their question is, do you believe that a shift to more easily access the information about a business is leading to much greater risks of information leaks? My answer is yes. I believe that no debate that the security way is also developing, but information technology provides more linked ways of information than before. Companies have to store their information on internet, but the internet is an open network, so it is a potential risk. And that's all. Thank you.